What is up, my aesthetic boys? It's Fresh, back with another video. On today's episode of r/ProRevenge, some of the revenge is so pro they got paid for it. Literally. My wife left me, lied about me, and I got revenge. My wife decided to take a week-long break about a month and a half ago. She said it had nothing to do with me. She just needed some time on her own. I let her go and encouraged her even. I only wanted what was best for her. The very next day, she started posting on social media, saying a bunch of things like, "I loved the wrong person," and "you deserve someone that supports you," etc. Standing on the outside, it's easy to assume I did something wrong here, but honestly, I'm a romantic pussy. I gave 110% into making sure the love of my life had everything. Here's the revenge bit. She asked for a divorce and has been making baseless lies about me to everyone I know over the last month and a half. Well, 2 weeks ago, she got laid off and has been collecting unemployment. I just finished filing a form to report her for fraud since she's working 2 jobs under the table that pay more than her previous job and collecting unemployment on top of it. I also made sure to get her to text me details about said jobs and screen capped them. Legally, I know I'm right, but it's still a stupid, vindictive thing to do. But honestly, I feel so good for screwing her over, knowing she won't be able to afford the house that she kicked me out of anymore. Well, OP said something in the comments that really struck me. He said, "While I may not like my ex-wife at the moment, I do still love her." And I think that's the case in a lot of relationships, especially when breakups happen primarily from one person, primarily started, ignited by one person. This idea that yes, you're not in the same position of trust that you were before. You don't care about them externally the same way you might have a week ago or a month ago, but they've had a lasting emotional impact on your life, and whether or not you like them, you do still love them. I can laud OP for taking revenge well within the law, in fact, using the law to his advantage, but at the end of the day, I agree. It's a bad situation to be in. I'm sorry that your wife turned out to be a person you didn't really realize she was. How to train your roommate, a Fortnite intervention. I had 3 roommates, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. All of us were 20 to 21 years old, yet I was the only person in the house that wasn't completely burnt from college, snowboarding, and partying. In turn, I was always the one cleaning, taking out the trash, shoveling snow, patching holes in walls, setting up the Wi-Fi, etc. I held the lease, the utilities, the Wi-Fi, and was the sole point of contact for landlords, neighbors, repairmen, everyone. There was actually this one time some coked out dumbasses fought through my 80-inch living room window at a party we were throwing. I learned how to frame and install windows that week. Many stories like that. My roommate, who lived upstairs with me, was privileged. He didn't work, his parents paid for his lifestyle, and didn't bother to check up too often. We had an adjoined bathroom. Basically, if I open my bathroom door in my room and he opens his in his room, we can sit on our beds and look each other in the face. The bathroom was quite small, so it was maybe 15 feet from bed to bed. He would always leave his bathroom door open and then loudly play Fortnite all night long, screaming, "Let's go!" or "We got the dub, boys!" waking me up multiple times a night. In the past, I was cool with everyone having weird hours and our life being a flurry of bad choices, but I was growing up, and my friends were not. I had just gotten my first salary job at a large, well-known, and hated corporate finance firm. At the bottom, hating life, being overworked and underappreciated, and being hyper-monitored. How long I pissed was a metric they looked at. It was tough. I gained 50 pounds in 6 months tough. I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. and my roommate would still be playing Fortnite. I started closing his bathroom door before I went to bed, and he would just open it 30 minutes later and leave it open. I reached a boiling point one night and asked him to stop playing that late. He blew it off in his usual style, and rather than get angry, I got smart and started planning my revenge. Just like Pavlov's dog, my friend was highly susceptible to influence. There wasn't a lot of stimulus getting through his skull on a daily basis. First, I tried to be nice. Then I tried full-on manipulation. I could turn off IPs from being able to connect to my Wi-Fi with ease. I don't think anyone in the house even knew that was possible. They perceived Wi-Fi as this strange magic box you plug into an outlet and then it just appears. I started blocking his Xbox's IP every night before bed. He started using his phone to tether to his Xbox. I started blocking his phone and his laptop, and then I would switch them back on for like 15 minutes and then disconnect them when he was in the middle of a game. I was trying to get him to believe the Wi-Fi is just messed up late at night. After weeks of hearing him stomp around in frustration, a couple of calls to the ISP, and convincing clueless performances by yours truly, he admitted defeat to the formidable Wi-Fi. Original goal was to make him quieter at night. I figured he would catch on to what was going on and simply not yell at 3 a.m. every night. What happened was a lot better. He started going to bed at reasonable times and waking up at 8 a.m. to play when the Wi-Fi was going strong. Unfortunately, his cabal of 20-year-old Fortnite diehards did not have the luxury of not working and could only play at night. He got bored of playing without his friends and started hanging out at the local skate and shoe store where our mutual friend worked, and eventually got his very first job out of boredom. I single-handedly conditioned my friend to improve his life and mine in just 60 days, all without him knowing. Huh, ProRevenge. He should be paying you for these kinds of services. While it was obviously unintentional on OP's part, the fact that OP just messing around with the Wi-Fi a bit to try to get a message across to his loud roommate ended up sending a much stronger message about life directions or something of that sort. I'm sure that DunkSurf will be happy with its latest employee. Employer reneged on compensation agreement, so I left and milked them for $35,000 in 2 months. Throwaway for soon-to-be very obvious reasons. I've generalized every aspect of this story to keep it anonymous. I hope you enjoy reading about my experience. I'm not willing to offer any more information or evidence for this, so just take it for what it is. Also, the point of this story isn't to brag over money, but rather to share my revenge plan and execution. Anyways, I work in software development using very in-demand and complex frameworks and tools. The average salary doing what I do in my area is around $110,000 a year for relatively simple, low-level jobs. By this, I mean a position where the employee does not have major responsibilities, works as part of a much larger team, etc. I worked on-site and then remotely as a contractor for 3 years for a company, hereafter named The Company, while I was at university. As a contractor, I was the only developer in the entire company of a few hundred people and was solely responsible for all systems, development, testing, etc. This includes databases, web servers, and much more. This may seem like a lot, because it was, but I did have full control of my environment and autonomy. I worked on the software projects that I wanted to and felt would have the most impact. During that period of remote work, upper management was changed. After I completed my schooling, I received an offer from the company for $70,000. I knew this was below what I should be making, but I did also realize the following. I had full autonomy in my environment, I had some gaps in my skill set, and by staying in this environment, I could fill in those gaps and very easily prepare to transition to another, higher paying job. So, new management and I reached an agreement. I would accept a salary of $72,000, and then, after 6 months' time, we would meet to go over my salary and it would be increased by at least 15%. This was included in my offer letter, which both new management and I signed. Fast forward to 6 months later. I've now filled every gap in my skill set and expanded on it to increase my skill set even more. The 6-month marker rolls by and nothing happens. I send new management repeated meeting requests and they're ignored. 3 weeks into the 6th month, I go to HR and raise the issue. HR turns ghost white and makes the meeting happen. That afternoon, new management comes into my office and offers me a 1% raise. Yes, that's correct. 1%. I kept my cool though and reminded them that I was guaranteed at least 15% per our agreement. New management completely denied making this agreement and repeated their previous offer. I brought out my offer letter with both of our signatures on it and they started backpedaling. They said they would talk and get back to me. I made it very clear that if I did not receive the agreed upon amount, we would have a problem. Fast forward to 2 weeks later. New management invites me into their offices. I'm then offered a 6% raise. They try to make excuses about budget restrictions, fairness to other employees, whatever they could think of. I knew then I had these options. 1. Quit. 2. Demand the 15%, possibly get it, but severely damage my relationship with new management. Or 3. Accept the 6% raise and maintain a strong, positive relationship with new management, allowing me to blindside them later. With the wheels in my head spinning, I agreed to the 6% raise. At that moment, I decided what I would do. I would take the raise, use the remainder of my time there to look for another job, and leave. A few months pass, though, and my plan expanded. I began implementing the most cutting-edge technology, using the most modern frameworks, upgrading everything I could as aggressively as I could. Of course, this provided immense benefit to the company. That was the plan. I entrenched myself in every system in every way possible, increased the skill floor for my position as high as I could get it, and left. 4 months after I accepted the raise of 6%, I accepted an offer for a salary of $130,000 at another company. I put my 2 weeks notice in at the company, and all hell broke loose. New management knew they had messed up, and they were completely blindsided that I was unhappy with my position. Since I had graciously accepted the 6%, they thought they were off the hook. With me, I took all knowledge of almost every one of their systems. New management freaked out. So, I did what any capitalist would do. I offered to come back as a remote contractor for $200 an hour. They had no choice but to accept. So, over the last few months, I've been charging them $200 an hour to do the exact same thing that I was previously doing for significantly less. Now, instead of being out a few $1,000s a year due to my raise, they've been outed over $35,000 in a few months with no end in sight. I even hired one of my good friends to help fill the hours. The money is nice, but the look on new management's face when this played out was priceless. It was the sweetest revenge of my life. Wait, so you're telling me this revenge was within the law, incredibly satisfying, and driven by capitalism? Can it get any better? Honestly, the employer should be pretty happy that something even worse didn't happen. I mean, they were obviously underpaying this person to do substantial infrastructure upgrades for them, and, well, they brought this whole mess on themselves. Steal from me, I'll ruin your career. This was about 2 years ago in college. I had just moved into a house off campus with 3 of my closest friends. There were 2 other college guys already living there. All of these guys were doing Air Force ROTC with me. Basically, you go into the military after you graduate. I really liked all of my roommates and the house, except for one of the dudes that was already living there. He had a dog that would constantly rip things up, defecate on the carpet, and he wouldn't clean it up. Furthermore, he would yell at us for leaving dirty dishes in the sink, etc., while he was the one making the vast majority of the mess. I had a job working about 30 hours a week and doing school full-time and doing ROTC. I had a job as a server, so I would make quite a lot of tips, about $300 a week. I would leave the cash in my room boxed up because I trusted everyone in the house. We were all going to join the military, and integrity is a big thing. So I go to deposit my tips in the bank after not going for about a month, and I'm shocked when my cash deposit is only about $200, when I knew it had to be at least $1,200. I knew someone was stealing my tips then. It then made sense because my deposits had seemed a little low for a while. I was furious because I was barely scraping by working my ass off trying to pay for college. So I buy a security camera for my room and hide it. I get all the documents for my work regarding the tips I've made over the past few months. I continue leaving my tips in the box unconcealed as bait. I don't tell any of my roommates this. Sure enough, I leave for a trip and I get a notification on my phone. I watch as this dude that I trusted steals about $300 in cash from me, taking only $20 bills so I wouldn't notice. Well, the next day back from the trip, I schedule a meeting with our ROTC commander. I bring him all the evidence and video footage and tell him about my awful experiences with him in my house, while my other roommates were witnesses. Long story short, he got kicked out of ROTC and ruined his own career. He had to pay me back about $1,000, I let him off easy, and had to pay the military back about $9,000. He had been getting paid by them for about a year. In addition, we go to an expensive school and he chose a useless major. So he's stacked high in student debt with no real way out. And finally, he had just quit his job because he thought he could get away with stealing from me and watching TV at home. And he had just crashed his dream car he'd been working on for a while because he drives like an idiot. I still see him every so often on campus and smile at him. And for your sake, I do kind of hope, OP, that whenever you smile at him on campus, it brings him just as much pain or irritation as it brings you happiness. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily Reddit content. Drop a like if you liked the video, and I will see you all tomorrow.